What's poppin' YouTube? My name's Autobot Prelude, and my goal is to cover everything hardcore related for Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the best builds for Nightmare pushing, Hell pushing, and getting into that early game magic finding. Now, these builds do vary from my last video, or one of my previous videos, of early normal pushing. Of course, fire builds are kind of just a little OP in that normal difficulty. So things are going to change up a bit here. So that's the point of this video, is going over what you're going to transition into once you get into Nightmare and Hell, and what builds are the best. So without further ado, let's dive on in.
Stay a while and listen.
As far as the tier list goes, in my previous video with the early ladder pushing for normal difficulty, a lot of that's going to remain the same until about Act 4, Act 5 Nightmare. And forward, and that's kind of where this video is going to focus on. So let's just assume you've made it to Act 4. At that point, a lot of the monsters are going to start not only having higher fire resistance and harder to kill, but they're going to be a lot more fire immune, which you can't really kill at all, especially with no gear. So that's when these guys are going to get knocked down a few tiers. Now, the Smiter and the Bone Mancer, they could be argued to be placed in different positions, but I am going to consider everything. I'm considering clear speed, gear dependency, and most importantly, survivability, right? And well, with the Smiter, you got to be in their face. It has no clear speed. It's great for fucking bosses, but you're not clearing chaos very quickly, if you know what I'm saying, you know? To be fair, I haven't completely tested the Bone Mancer. I'm just going off of previous experience with the character. I honestly probably haven't tested it enough to accurately give this a B tier rating, but I do think that's a pretty fair decision. Some could argue it could be in a different spot. If you do, please drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the Bone Mancer and why you would place it where. Now, before we dive into anything else, I just want to summarize that we're specifically talking hardcore here, right? So with that being said, all of your melee classes have very bad survivability, especially in the beginning. Well, let me rephrase that. Their survivability isn't as good as a caster class that can keep their distance from things like cold enchanted, fire enchanted, lightning enchanted, and any other scary enchantments that there's going to be on those elite packs. So once you get into Hell, these classes become really scary to use, especially when you have no gear with damage reduction and extra life and all the necessities that you need, right? So again, during an initial early ladder push of Nightmare and Hell, these classes are just not going to perform the same that these classes are going to, right? We've already explained why the fire classes are getting knocked down. Now, Orb, more specifically, there's the good old Orb and Blizzard debate, and I'm not really going to go into too much detail into that. Orb is a great skill. It's freaking amazing for normal Nightmare. It's even still pretty good for Hell, but Blizzard ends up just performing a little better when it comes to magic finding, especially with bosses. It requires a little less gear when it comes to doing damage. Not to mention you have other items like Snow Clash that are going to help Blizzard more specifically. So with that being said, Blizzard's going to get the upper ranking over Orb all day, in my opinion. I think they're both great builds. Play what you like, play what you enjoy, but that's my decision between Blizzard and Orb. Now, for the rest of the S tier builds, you have your Lightning Trapper, your Hammerden, your Hurricane, Tornado, Druid, your Chain Lightning Source, your Lightning Javazon, and your Summoner. As far as the Summoner, it's kind of a given there. He's slow and steady, but he's going to win the race. With that being said, there's not a whole lot that can stop the Summoner. Maybe some things that can slow him down, but ultimately he could pretty much solo the whole game off the rip, right? Now, as far as the other classes, we'll kind of just scoot on back to the left, we've talked about the Blizzard Sorceress. It does great damage initially with a little to no gear dependency. You can farm quite a few areas in Hell. The same areas you'd farm with the Blizzard Sorceress would be the same areas you'd farm with the Orb Sorceress. And, you know, Hell Mephisto, Upper Kuros, those are some really good areas to look into. Even Ancient Tunnels in Act 2 are some really good areas to just start farming immediately with that source. Now, you also have the Lightning Trap Assassin, the Lightning Sorceress, and the Lightning Javazon. They're all really, really good builds. You're going to be able to maintain that distance and take out your enemies. The Trapper excels, I think, a little bit better than the other two in its own ways because of Death Sentry and having Corpse Explosion. But then you have the Lightning Javazon coming in with some really good clear speed, especially when it comes to areas like Chaos. And then, of course, you know, the Sorceress has Teleport. So they all have their pros and cons there. It just kind of really depends on what you're looking to work with. Now, I'm not really going to get into too much detail as to why, what makes them good or bad, but we'll save that for another video. Now, as far as the last two in the S class, you got your Hammerden and your Hurricane Druid. These are both really good classes. Your Hammerden's going to get great block chance. It's, you know, high defense. You know, there's a lot of perks with a Hammerden in general. You also have like your Paladin shields that are going to give you that little bit of boost when it comes to resistances. Of course, with the Hurricane Druid, you have things like Cyclone Armor that's going to allow you to absorb some elemental damage and kind of help with survivability, as well as Oak Sage. Again, every class in the S tier has some really good perks as far as being able to get through Hell and survive, essentially. Sources are probably the most squishy out of all of the S tier classes, but you do have options like Energy Shield, staying far away, Teleport, and other things like that. Now, of course, all of these characters, all of these builds have their pros and their cons, especially when it comes to the S tier. But the reason I placed those guys where I placed them is that they remain consistent, regardless of the amount of gear. Now, of course, we're playing hardcore here. You want to play it safe, so the better gear you have, the better chance of survival you're going to have regardless. I'm not saying go into Hell butt naked like I did the other night over the weekend and die. But, you know, play it safe. Take advantage of their pros and cons. Well, let me rephrase. Play it safe. Take advantage of the pros. Be aware of the cons of each class, depending on which class you decide to go with, and have fun. Now, as far as magic finding goes, we'll save that for another video, and we'll talk about locations that each class excels in, and I'll try to just summarize that and break that down and let y'all know what classes excel where. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you. It's nothing too crazy. I just kind of wanted to go over my thoughts and opinions on hardcore and, you know, where I would place each build for an early ladder push, right? You just started a brand new character. It's the first night of ladder. What classes are the best for Nightmare and Hell? And these are it. Now, of course, everyone has their own opinion when it comes to D2, and I think that's one of the things I love the most about the game. So, if there's something you didn't agree with, I'd love to hear it and why you don't agree with it. Maybe there's something that you see that I don't, and I'd love to see it. So drop some comments down below. If something's helped you out today, I'd love to hear what helped you out as well. All likes and comments are highly appreciated as they help the algorithm of the video. But anyways, y'all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.